After 72 years of grassroots organization, clever advocacy, and relentless agitation conducted by 3 generations of U.S. women, the 19th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution was adopted in August of 1920. It stated, "The rights of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of sex. Congress shall have power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation."
The Women Voters was officially founded in Chicago in 1920, designated to help 20 million women with their new responsibility as voters. During the next decade, League members studied timely issues, came to consensus, and worked to support legislation to reform child labor laws, promote maternal and child health, and encourage good citizenship. Always nonpartisan, the League became a multi-issue organization.
As U.S. women coped with the Great Depression, the League of Women Voters supported the National Recovery Act, the Tennessee Valley Authority, and other programs to sustain the public.
U.S. women joined the war effort at home and on the assembly line. After the war, the League carried out a nationwide support campaign requested by President Franklin Roosevelt to establish the United Nations and ensure U.S. participation. Following the campaign, President Harry Truman invited the League to serve as consultants to the U.S. delegation to the United Nations Charter Conference, one of the first organizations officially recognized by the UN as a non-governmental organization. The League of Women Voters still maintains official observer status today.
The witch hunt period of the early 1950s led the League to undertake a 2-year Freedom Agenda community education program on issues such as freedom of speech. Next, a focused study on federal loyalty security programs culminated in a position that emphasized protection of individual rights. Professionalizing the U.S. civil service and prudent management of water resources were other areas of the League's study and action during this decade. In 1957, the League founded the League of Women Voters Education Fund as a separate legal entity to develop and promote educational programs with the financial support from foundations, corporations, and individuals.
The 1960s was a time of national unrest regarding civil rights. The League played an important role in building public support for equal access to education, employment, and housing. In fact, in 1966, the League adopted an official position on combating poverty and discrimination by supporting policies that offered equal opportunity to all in education and employment. Members also endorsed criteria for ensuring fair housing and an adequate housing supply. The League has consistently supported federal programs aimed at combating poverty and discrimination, and has worked at the local level to ensure the successful implementation of those programs.
In 1972, shortly after congressional passage of the Equal Rights Amendment, the League of Women Voters officially voted to support equal rights for all, regardless of sex. The League followed this vote with a national pressure campaign that continued through the 1970s. In 1982, that national campaign ended, but the League of Women Voters continues to push for Equal Rights Amendment ratification.
The League sponsored general election presidential debates in 1980 and 1984, as well as primary presidential forums in 1980, 1984, and 1988. These debates focused on nonpartisan issues with the main goal of informing voters. As candidates increasingly demanded partisan conditions, however, the League withdrew its sponsorship of the debates in 1988. Today, all across the country, leagues hold forums and debates for local and state elections.
The grassroots campaign of the League for a National Voter Registration Act resulted in the National Voter Registration Act, also called the Motor Voter Bill. The goal of this bill was to expand accessibility to the electoral process. As a result of this bill, citizens could register to vote automatically at all motor vehicle agencies, as well as by mail and at other offices of public agencies.
When the 2000 election exposed the many problems facing the election system, the League began to work on election reform. Working closely with the Civil Rights Coalition, the League helped draft and pass the Help America Vote Act, which established provisional balloting, requirements for updating voting requirements, and the Election Assistance Commission. In 2006, the League launched the next generation of online voter education called vote411.org, a one-stop shop for election-related information. Today, Vote 411 provides both general and state-specific, nonpartisan resources to the voting public, including a nationwide polling place locator, a ballot lookup tool, candidates' positions on issues, and more.
In June 2019, the United States Supreme Court ruled that partisan gerrymandering cannot be solved by the federal courts. In response, the League initiated People-Powered Fair Maps, a coordinated effort across all 50 states and the District of Columbia to create fair and transparent people-powered redistricting processes to eliminate partisan and racial gerrymandering nationwide.
Going forward, the League will challenge all efforts and tactics that threaten our democracy and erect intentional barriers to our right to vote. In addition to continuing the People-Powered Fair Maps effort, we are in the forefront of important federal and state voting rights cases around the country, actively opposing discriminating voter photo laws and proof of citizenship restrictions on eligible voters, cutting early voting opportunities, and illegally purging voters' rolls. Through advocacy, grassroots organizing, legal action, and public education, we continue to work to protect voting rights and ballot access for all Americans. Please vote.